Sound. All right. Welcome to Health We Know podcast. That's Chris. I'm Brian. This is a college football centric podcast that we will be discussing today. The review of the semifinal games from Thursday and Friday last week. We'll do a preview show as well for the Monday night title game, a week from Monday, I guess. So look for that to be coming soon. But I guess we can just get right into it to start with the Thursday game. Miami Ole Miss. Now, one thing we'll pepper in there as well is that we did some gambling picks as well. You know, the spread and then the over under and then the just kind of straight up pick, and then we did that for both teams. So Chris picked the Ole Miss Miami games, what he thought it was going to be, and I did the Indiana and Oregon game. So we'll start with the Miami game. Let's kick it off with you. Like, what did you see in this game that was surprising or maybe not surprising? From as a sort of high overarching look at this game.
Right. I'd say the biggest surprise, I guess, what was okay. Let's do the easy stuff first. What's not surprising?
Sure.
Miami, what Miami's offensive line pretty much controlled the Ole Miss front seven for the most part. Um, they ran for 191 yards.
190.
It felt like a lot more to me. Like
Yeah.
every time you looked up, they was ripping off, runs of 3-4 Mark Fletcher Jr. and those guys were just running off. And Brown, who really
Yes.
was pretty good in this
He looked
game.
good.
Yeah,
he
sure
was really
did.
good.
And they just kind of controlled things up front. I thought, and we talked about it a little bit during the chat when we were watching the game, was they just would go away from it for some reason. It's mind-boggling. You're knocking down 4, 5, 8 yards a carry every single. I mean, just blowing them off the
Yeah.
football, and then decide let's run a reverse or an end around and totally blow up your drive. I don't understand coaches, man. We've said this all year. Like all year long, it's been like, why do coaches overthink this stuff when it's working? Just especially when you're running downhill, running power, and you're just
Yeah.
blowing them off the line of scrimmage straight ahead. Because Ole Miss will do a lot of stunts and a lot of movement up front because they're not very good up front, so they have to do it to try to
Right.
guess right based on your alignment and see if they can get a stop. Otherwise, if it's just hat on a hat, they're going to lose every single time, and they lost a
Right.
lot of it. Um, it surprised me that Ole Miss took a little bit of time to get on track, but that was the Miami defense. The ends didn't, Bain and those guys didn't have a very big game. That kind of
No.
surprised me. They were just there,
It's
but
huge.
they were the Ole Miss offensive line did pretty well considering what they were up against, I
Oh,
thought.
absolutely. Yeah.
And of course, Chambliss is in the statue, so whenever they did get a little bit of pressure, he was able to wiggle out of there and then throw the ball downfield. The Ole Miss run game was pretty good, 121 yards. You take that. Now Chambliss is responsible for
Absolutely.
how much of that? Look at on your
Just
sheet here.
yeah. He had only 7
Yeah,
yards
7
total,
yards.
but he had a
That's not.
19 yarder.
Yeah,
But he carried 5 times, but like so there were some sacks in there. Obviously takes away from that, which
I
I
thought they'd
wish the
run him more.
NCAA would fix that too. Absolutely right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just a little surprised about that. That's one thing I would have guessed they would have done more. But go ahead.
but we bet this, and I bet Miami money line, Miami to cover the 3.5, and also the over. And it was in the fourth quarter. It was touch and go. We went in the fourth quarter, need 19 points in the fourth quarter to hit the over, and wound up having a 24-point fourth quarter as things kind of opened up there
Yeah,
toward the end. Both defenses got tired. Both offenses started having their way a little
yeah,
bit. And so 24 points in the fourth quarter, and Miami scores that last touchdown to get it to 4 points and barely cover that spread by half a point, man. And jubilation. So, but it was a fun game. I mean, it was a fun game. We knew it would be a fun game. We picked it to be close, and
yeah.
it was everything. It was by far the best game of last weekend, as we'll talk about here in a minute. But
Yes,
uh,
yeah,
it had a little bit of everything. So I said we've been saying it for the year, and they had a little bit of downtime or a little bit of a downturn in the middle of the year. I like this Miami team. I like the way they're made up. They're big, they're physical, they run. They do everything you want to do to try to win a championship. Now, will it be enough?
Yeah,
We'll talk about that in the preview here in a few days, but I don't know that I pick them. And I've got, like I said before, I've got some quick hit questions here, and one of them pertains to that game, that national championship game. We'll just kind of discuss it a little bit of a
we'll
sneak
preview.
preview.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. I just kind of echo everything. Although the one thing I'll say is that I had picked Ole Miss to win 33-31. In fact, so if Ole Miss was a maybe a DPI, if you want to think about that as the last play
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
game, you could argue that was a DPI. And they usually let them
They
play,
never
but
call those though.
one kind of Hail Mary, they're never going to call that. Like that had to be pretty egregious, and there's a lot of hand fighting and stuff anyway. So
They'd have to
I'm on
take
the
out like
thought of like
brass
let that
knuckles,
go.
like brass knuckles and like
Yes,
chairs
a
and hit.
chainsaw on
Yeah,
Chase. Yeah,
right.
right.
To call that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right. So, but I also said that I wasn't confident in that pick because of who Miami is and what they're made of, and that they'll probably control the lines of scrimmage. And they did very well that. I mean, Fletcher had 133 yards on 22 carries, carried 6 yards a carry. Like you said, Brown had a good game.
I
Tony
didn't think
got a
they run
couple
Fletcher
carries.
enough.
That didn't lump Fletcher. Like that, we said, look, 25 plus is the best, touches, and he didn't get any balls thrown to him out of the backfield. I think Ole Miss was like, not going to happen. We're
Right.
not going to let that happen. But the Miami offensive line was just caving people in, and that eventually is going to wear on you, right? I mean that, that then Beck, he was okay. He was kind of Becky, which was like, oh, I make a few plays, and it's like, dude, what are you throwing to? What are
He
you
was
doing?
money
What,
when
what
it
was that
counted,
throw?
though.
He sure was.
He was
And that
money when it
game, that
counted.
that last touchdown when he scrambled, they had man coverage, and he saw wide open grass. He just coasted in there, and that was the game winner, if you will. You said it earlier. Why Miami's made? They got a elite defense, control the line of scrimmage on offense, solid quarterback, I'd say, and they have elite wide receiver and Tony. He's going to be a superstar, already is, frankly,
Right.
and then Fletcher, who's a really good elite college running back. And when you have those things, you're going to go pretty far. Clearly, that's one thing Ole Miss did really. I mean, Lacey had 100 yards on 11 carries. He had a 73-yarder. That
So yeah,
that
a lot of that's on
explosive
that
play
one
there,
run,
and
right? Yep.
yeah, done play right. So he had 10 carries for about 30 yards. So. Um, but so he peppered some in there. Yeah, they I don't know, like Miami kind of, I would say they figured them out, but they were able to contain Chambliss primarily in the first and third quarters, and then fourth quarter kind of got a couple scores there late. But yeah, hell of a game, hell of a
Yep.
game. Ended about like most people thought. Spread was 3.5 or whatever it was, and ended up at 4. And it was a good game. It wasn't like super sloppy. It was just good back and forth. 17-13 at halftime. Miami felt like they were controlling most of the game, but it's just like explosive plays like that. Miami couldn't do anything like but kick field goals to start with. I'm like,
Right.
dude, you're going to end up with, you're going to be sitting there wishing you had another 7 on the board there, because once all you need is a Lacey 73-yard bust. And that game was a little closer than Mario Cristobal would like. But anyway, they put it together. Um, they you're
They
right though.
possessed
Like
that
this
ball
Miami
for
team,
they possessed that ball for like majority of that first
42
half.
minutes.
42 minutes total out of
Yes,
60.
total.
That's
Right. Yes,
and
they had it. Let's see. I think they had it for 22 minutes the first half
right.
out of 30, something like
That's
that.
that's
So
that's
they
nuts.
that's just what you wanted to do, right? Keep Chambliss on the sideline, so he can't be Superman. And when you hold the ball for over 40 minutes, that's a pretty damn good way to do it.
But you
They're
still
gonna have to
had
do that again.
you did all that, and you still
Yes,
had
you
to have a
still had to hang
last
on.
inside the last 5 minutes of the game drive to go back up and then keep them from completing a pass in the end zone to win the game. You did
Yep.
all that,
Right.
and you still had to kind of make clutch plays and clutch passes and score, and then bend don't break, and then hope they don't complete something in the end zone. They don't call pass interference. If Ole Miss runs that play for the 10, they're going to score.
I think that's a good possibility.
They were at the 30,
I agree.
35-yard line throwing in. That's a tough ask, but
That's right.
especially when you're playing deep like that. But if that plays ran from the 10, 15-yard line, the way he was cooking in that fourth quarter, I don't know. Miami stops him. I don't know if they keep him out of the end zone, whether he runs it or throws it in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, so the third downs were the biggest thing, I think, obviously, where they control the clock. Miami is 11 of 19, and Ole Miss is 2 of 10. And Miami went 2 of
It
2 on
scored
fourth down. I
27
mean, that's
points.
27 points, right? Like, how do you, that's pretty amazing, frankly. Um, I yeah, and part of the thing with Miami is that they kind of kicked themselves in the balls a few times. They had some dumb offsides penalties and false starts, and then they had at least one or two personal fouls, late hits, kind
Just
of thing.
dumb
Just
stuff,
being kind of
boneheaded
Miami,
stuff.
just dumb stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that'll get you beat. Now they're able to overcome that because they have a kid like Tony who can just take a ball and just turn into, the road runner and run
Right.
past dudes like a 15-year veteran NFL player. So that kid's going to have quite the career at Miami and then beyond. Um, I think
Yeah.
so.
Oh, the
Overall,
NFL
Miami moves
coaches
on.
are
Yeah.
salivating over that
Oh,
kid. They cannot wait to get
right.
their hands on him.
There are going to be some good, within the next three years, I guess. You have him and Jeremiah Smith in the NFL. There's some elite wide
Pretty
receivers
good.
coming out of college here pretty soon. Not to
Not
mention
bad.
Carnell Tate, who's nothing to sneeze at either. Like, so there's going to be some infiltrate of
Malachi
some good talent.
Lemon at USC. He's
Yeah,
coming out too.
Kai Lemon. Yep, absolutely. Yep. And also, I think this kid that was at Auburn who's transferring to
Coleman,
Cam Coleman. Where'd he go? Yeah, where'd he go to? I
Texas.
just saw he Texas. Yeah, of
Texas
course,
is
Texas.
putting the
Right,
money
exactly.
down,
So,
man. They are
yes,
not
they are.
playing around.
Yes, they are. Right, they are not. They got this top-rated portal linebacker that Michigan really wanted, a kid from Pitt. The only thing that they've lost, I guess, that wasn't like all attrition from graduation stuff and draft was there's a kid named Jamie French as a wide receiver as a freshman last year. He's actually transferring to Michigan, so that helps them because they needed another, you know, wide receiver. It can be useful other than Andrew Marsh, but it's another story. So, all right, Miami moves on 31-27. They'll take on the next game we're going to talk about, and that is the
Not near as
the
fun as this one
beatdown.
was.
Not near as fun.
We thought it was going to be.
Not near as fun at all. Yeah, there's no reason it shouldn't have been. However, however, Indiana 56, Oregon 22, and quite frankly, it wasn't even that close.
Nope.
This game was over so
First
quick.
play.
It's 35-7. First play of the game, exactly. First play of the game, pick six from Indiana. They're sitting on an out route, and Moore throws it right to, um, was it Pond? Yeah,
Yep.
Pond. And he just takes it in for six. And then it was like, oh boy, here we go. And then now Oregon did have a nice response and scored shortly thereafter, but then it was over from there. And Indiana just could not be stopped in 35-7 at halftime. It was a beating. Like they took that Alabama game, they beat Bama so bad, and they made it even worse for Oregon, who
Right.
they already saw earlier in the year. They saw it in October, late September, whenever that was, and they took them on the road, Eugene, 30-20. They come out and this looked like another even better Indiana team, and that's a better Oregon team that was than 3
Yep.
months ago too. So this Indiana team is, we'll go through the numbers here, like just efficient. I think that's what they call that, efficient.
I've heard that
When you're
word
when you're
mentioned
11 to
with this
4,
Indiana team. I've
I
heard
don't.
it.
I think I just came up with it right. Look at the balance, like 11 of 14 on third down,
Is that good?
362 total yards, which is, well, not really 362 yards. You get 56 points. Well, because one, they had a pick six, and they had two short field that they just
Yep.
powered in after some fumbles, and that'll add up to they had like 21 or 28 points off of turnovers. Like they
21.
just capitalize on what you do. You make a mistake, you have a 21. So you make a mistake, they're going to punish you for that, and then they don't make mistakes. So I don't know much more else you could say. Mendoza was money. He had more touchdowns and incompletions. Again, that's 2 games in a row. He's done that. They ran for 185 yards, 5 penalties. Like they just do everything really well.
Right.
And if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. They're going to beat you to death. And this is what Oregon experienced. And the last couple Oregon scores are like whatever. We're coasting here. It's
It,
42-7.
right.
You guys go ahead and run your offense if you want to, but so it meant nothing. Um, yeah, I don't know much more to say. That like Dante Moore was just not good from the jump. They couldn't get the ball, couldn't run the ball very well. He only ran 93 yards and 26 carries, but a
Yeah.
lot of that's garbage stuff too. Like it didn't matter. Um, they just couldn't do anything um, offensively without taking 2 steps forward and 10 steps back. They
That
turned the ball over, and Indiana said, "All right, thanks. We're going to go and score again."
that Indiana defensive staff, Oregon, yeah, Oregon throws a pick six, gets the ball back, drives down, scores a touchdown. You're like, okay, game on. Here we go.
Game
This
on.
is going to be a good one. And the adjustments they made, and I listen, I'm not a coach. I don't know. I can't put my finger on what exactly they did, but whatever they did to kind of settle everything, and maybe it was just nerves. It could have been. It could have just been nerves because they took a time out there during that Oregon drive. And
Yes.
Herbstreit even
Right.
alluded to it, was like, it's a good timeout by Signetti there. He can calm them down. Listen, this is what we do. This is play our, do our jobs, all the cliches. Let's just settle,
Right.
do our jobs, one play at a time, blah, 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 blah. And they still give up the touchdown, but it seemed to really, because they were so close anyway, they were going to give that touchdown up. And then they just really
Right.
settled in and didn't give up anything. And Oregon had a play here. It seemed like every drive Oregon had a play or a play to be made that they didn't make.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't
Could make
sustain
it.
it. They couldn't turn a first down into two, and there was no chunk plays. Forget about that.
No.
Just
No.
gone because they didn't have time to sit back there. And then the fumbles, um, talking about our gambling picks a little bit, I'm glad you had this game because you took Indiana money line, Indiana to cover, and
Yeah.
the over. I went the under. I would have went the under. I watching Oregon and Texas Tech, and then that first game made me think that was going to be the under. And they scored 21 points off 3 turnovers. You take those 21 points away, it's 35-22. They still cover everything you mentioned
Yes.
without
Yes.
the
Right.
points for the turnovers. So just
That was
domination.
that was the easiest
Yeah,
comfortable lead at halftime. Like they had damn near had the over under by themselves at halftime, basically, with a little help by Oregon, which you knew that was just they needed a couple scores to get that. And so
right.
it felt like as well as one of the comfortable games. There's no way that this first of all the spread was what, 7? I forget what it was. Something
Yeah,
it was
something
under
like that.
10.
I forget. Yeah.
And the over under hit was easy. I know it wasn't 77 points that we got. There was a 78
No,
total, but um,
no, no, not quite that high.
but if you look at after Oregon comes back, throw the pick six, come back a 14 play drive, had 7.5 minutes.
Solid drive.
Great drive. Again, they look good, but then they gave up 11 play 75-yard drive to Indiana. I was like, dude, this is now you're in trouble. Then they go punt, which was let's see, that was a punt. Was that one blocked? I forget what that was. No, okay. Indiana just
No,
had
because
a.
it's 4 play. Yep.
I don't know why this is. That's not right. I don't know what it says. Up to 20. Um, they go 3 plays and a punt, 1 play and a fumble, 5 plays and a punt, 2 plays and a fumble, and a missed field goal to end the half. Like they had possessions, 1, 2, 3, 5 possessions in the
Yep.
second half, and they come up with,
Nothing.
like
Couldn't
15,
sustain it.
21. They had about 40 yards total the second quarter off 5 possessions, and a couple turnovers. And then the second half, like it didn't really matter because it's 42-7. Indiana's going to come out and just put up another score. I mean, it was 35-7 at halftime. Put up another score right away on 11 play, 75-yard drive, and that's like if you thought you had anything left in the tank, Indiana just completely drains you.
Slammed the door.
Going 11,
Slammed
11
the
plays,
door.
75 yards, 6 minutes, and go 42-7, and just it looked effortless. Every play that they drew up was working for 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 20 yards. And then Oregon gets, they did score their first possession in the third quarter, but then again, it was kind of who cares by then, because Indiana's happy just to run the clock and punt and run the clock and punt, and then they did get um, a couple touchdowns later, like after the game was way over, and Oregon did score a couple late score or one late score that meant squat really, but.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, we talk about Indiana because there's plenty of time to talk about them and that Miami game in our previous show, but I guess let's focus on Oregon for a minute. Like we kind of said before, you posed the question: Is I don't know if you said it like this, but is it time to start questioning Dan Lanning? Not that he's a fraud, but it, he's got some in-game things that make you wonder, like, dude, are you making the right decisions? Like go back to a couple years ago against Washington, had a couple fourth downs he probably should have kicked on or punted on. Had a couple other ones against who was a previous game that we talked about, but
Texas Tech.
some questionable like X's and O's. Yeah, Texas Tech, some X's and O things like why did you kick it there, right? Like why didn't you get to three? This is gonna be a low scoring game. You need those points, and it didn't matter in the end, but it kind of shows you like, look, this guy is. There's no one more intense, maybe than Signetti. I guess he probably is a little bit, but they have the unlimited resources of Nike money and donors. Their facilities are top notch, right? They want for nothing in NIL money, and they just can't quite make that next step, right? I mean, they've been really close, and they always have good to great teams every year. And I'd say this is probably a great team. You're in the semis, that's pretty damn good, but they just don't have that whatever it is to get to the next
Right.
level. And they've had good quarterback play. Bo Nix. They've like you go back and Dylan Gabriel. Like it's those guys are just not quite enough, or it's they can't quite control the line of scrimmage as well as they'd like for 4 quarters, and it ends up being now my Indiana. This may be one of those all-time best teams ever. So it's a little hard to say, you should have beat my Indiana here, but and you got your teeth kicked in from the get-go, and this wasn't even competitive
Right.
after the first, what, like
And
12 minutes or so, something like that.
that's 2 years in a row you would have had your ass kicked by the eventual probably national champion. I mean, I don't. I mean,
I
I
would
hate the
gotcha. Yeah,
spoiler alert. I think probably Brian and I both are probably going to take Indiana next game over
yeah,
Miami. And
I
rightfully
think that's
so.
true.
So that's
Yeah,
it could be a little bit of landing. It could be a little bit of preparation. It could be heck. It could just be bad luck. Look at the teams they've ran into.
yes.
So they're
Eventual
not.
national champions. They lost to the
If
eventual national champion last year. They're probably going to this year. It's
yeah.
hard to
So
like be too hard on them because they're right there. They just don't have that
just
whatever that is
run into the best team.
to yeah, exactly right. They do a little luck, right? Like they could have. Let's say Texas beats Ohio State last year.
Right.
I don't know. Like, well, I mean, if they would have beat, of course, that was never mind. It would matter because they got smoked in the Rose Bowl. So I just they're non-competitive in these games when they should be competitive. And so it's funny because they beat Ohio State in the regular season in Eugene last year. Then they get smoked in the Rose Bowl. They got beat by Indiana at home this year by 10, and then they just get plowed like they're playing an NFL team
Right.
in this game. So like they're not well prepared, or there's just so many things that could be. Obviously, I don't know if a guy could put a single particular thing on it. I'm sure Dan Lanning would love to know what that is. Um,
It's
I tell you what, side note here, I don't think it's going to be the quarterback play next year that's going to propel them. They just picked up Dylan Raiola from
right.
Nebraska, and best of luck with that. I mean, that kid has some talent, and he got beat up in Nebraska because they had almost no offensive line. But I don't know. That's a step back, I think, for them
I think
quarterback wise.
so.
And
And we've not even mentioned like you've lost to the national champion last year. You're likely going to lose to him this year, assuming how the game goes.
right,
And then you're going to take Dylan Raiola, who is like you said, meh. And not to
he's
mention you're
fine,
losing both your
right?
offensive defensive coordinators. They're
Yes,
leaving too.
right,
So
right.
that just
Yeah.
compounds it.
So you took a look at their schedule. They got to go to Michigan. I think they get Penn State. Like they have a schedule that's going to set up to like. Yeah, we'll have to look at this, but like you may have 3, 4 losses, and if you don't have the good quarterback, I think they're going to have good wide receiver play and running backs.
Yep.
But if your quarterback play is kind of mediocre and you lose two great coordinators, right? That's going to be hard to replace all that in one year and feel like you're taking another step forward.
Right. Right.
Um, we'll see. Obviously, they're going to do well in the portal and pick up some guys, but I'm just not impressed with how they finished the last 2 years and how they're finishing the offseason with some portal entries or grabs.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. If they go 8-4 next year, the natives in Eugene may start to get a little restless with him. especially especially if
Absolutely.
those games are marred by bad decisions, not kicking field goals or not
Yes.
punting, and it
Yes.
costs them a game or two because they can't overcome because of the huge talent gap they have over everyone. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see because you could, if you drop a game to, you know, Penn State and you don't kick a field goal and you should have kicked it, right? And that's in-game stuff, and we're worried about it now, and we'll keep the receipts. We'll keep the receipts because next year when
Yes.
that happens, we're going to be like, hey, you remember last year after the semifinal, we talked about Dan Lanning?
Right.
Okay, this is what you get right here. This is what he's doing. So
This is who he is. Like, I'll bring up their schedule. I just pulled up real quick. This is a kind of a peek here to next year. So there's Oregon's schedule. Some of these are to be determined
at
whether they're home or
Illinois,
away. But
that one jumps out
at
at you.
Illinois, at Illinois, Michigan at home, um, probably not Nebraska.
No,
Like then they have like Ohio State at USC. Like that's there's four, perhaps probably four games right there that like
that are dangerous,
you better split those.
right?
you
Yep.
you better split those, like especially the last two, right? I mean, um, it's
I
hard to say because it's so far out, and who knows what their schedule or their roster is going to look like. But if they're going with Raiola as their quarterback, I mean,
I have
there's
a
a handful
hard
of games
time.
here that
I have a hard
believing
time
he's
seeing
going to
them get through that unscathed all the way to Ohio State. I have a
no,
really tough time seeing
right?
that.
There's an L in there somewhere, right? I mean, it starts with Boise State. I'm not sure what they're going to look like next year, but like they had a tough couple of years here, or couple year this year after a playoff
They're
run
always
last year. But
solid though. They're
there's
always
yeah,
a
right,
solid
exactly.
team.
First
Like they're
game,
not. Yeah,
you're
they're
maybe
better than
happy it's in
Oklahoma.
Eugene.
They're better than Oklahoma
Yeah,
State.
but Oklahoma State, right? I would gather, right? Although
So
they could make a step up with new coaching and better quarterback play, and
yeah,
I think they
more
got a lot
money.
of long ways to go. Probably only got one here exactly. T Boone Pickens money.
Yep.
Yeah, this is interesting. So we'll see how that comes up. All right, so we did pretty good gambling
Dude,
this week. Pretty
dude.
good.
I,
Pretty good.
if you were listening to us for this playoff run, these 3 rounds, you have made bank. We only invested $80 in this thing. Just $80, no big deal, right? Just $80. We're having some
Yeah,
fun. That way, when we're making our picks, we got skin in the game. That way, we can practice what we preach. We can put our money where our
yes.
mouth is. Use the other stuff. So here's what we've done. First weekend, we go 9-3. Second weekend, we go 8-4. This weekend, we go 6-0. That's a total of 23-7. That's 76.7% winning percentage through the playoffs. That's the money
Vegas would not
line
like us.
over under. No, no, we would be banned from Caesar's Palace, from the Luxor. We wouldn't be able to come back. You win like that.
Yeah,
76.7 winning percentage. That's money line over under and against the spread. Anybody would take that. Anybody would take that. In a like
absolutely.
I think the most normal over the course of a year is like 60%. That's usually if you're really good, you get 55, 60% of them right. 76.7 is
Right.
insane, which makes me scared as shit next game. That's why.
Right.
And,
Exactly
and we'll
right.
talk about in the preview. I hedged our bet a little bit on this next
Yeah.
one, so you'll enjoy what I did. But money, we start off with
Okay.
$80. Come into the second week, we go from 80 to $132.26. So we are up $52.26. We take that money, we roll that into the third weekend. We go in with 132.28. We come out with $238.17. So for the playoffs, we are plus 158.13 or 17 for the whole playoffs for the year. Now, remember, those of you that follow along, we did SEC home games all year with $147. So we bet on every SEC home game because they
Straight up.
had a high winning percentage. Well, come to find out, that didn't work out money wise. So we wound up losing that 147. But the 147 plus the 80 minus the 238.17, we are plus $11 for the year now. So we are up.
Righteous bucks. We're up, baby.
We are up $11 after as shitty as that SEC home schedule been.
Terrible,
Yes.
terrible. Yeah.
If we would have just taken that 147 and plus this 80 and invested into the playoffs, I'm not saying we'd retire. I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm just saying our jobs would be in serious danger of being down 2 employees. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So,
Absolutely. And there would be less bourbon on the shelves at
yes, way less
most
bourbon.
stores in our regions.
So next week is
Yeah.
only 3 picks. So, and I said again, and we'll discuss it in the preview. But I've taken that money already, and I've already made the bet one to hedge our money a little bit next week. And so we'll go over
Okay.
that in the preview. That'll be fun. But it's that I'm I don't know how we do it. I mean, we're just two bozos here talking college football. But
Hell if we know.
hell, if we know how we did this. But I'll tell you,
Right.
it's because we watch a hell of a lot of football, and our wives do nothing with us on Saturdays during football season. Those days are
That's right.
totally off limits.
Exactly.
That's the only reason why we can go in the playoffs, having seen all these teams all year and make those picks. That's the only explanation
Yeah.
I could put.
We did this and we work full time.
Right.
Like this is not our full time job either. Like,
That's probably
so
surprising for a lot of people.
I think we did pretty well. Exactly right. Yes, we are employed
76.7,
gainfully elsewhere.
dude,
76%.
it's
Well,
killing
I
it
don't know if
in
you
the
remember,
playoffs.
I told you after Miami covers that, I got a little greedy and I said, "Hey, let's roll that whole bankroll onto let's double nothing or double nothing. Let's double up on the Indiana."
Yeah,
And
yep,
don't you wish we would have done that at the time?
should
That
have done
was
it.
not a good idea, not a terrible idea. It was a good idea, but basically a terrible idea at the same time. But
Right.
boy, that'd have been sweet too, right? In hindsight, obviously. God, I just kind of go back to the Oregon game because Indiana's just so good. Like I just can't. We're gonna have to talk about them at some point when this is all done, and and we're making a leap of faith that they're gonna win the title. And you said, spoiler alert, probably gonna pick Indiana to win. I think a lot of people are going to. Where they stack up all time. And that's funny to say, to have that conversation. Is this Indiana team as good as the 20 XYZ 19 LSU?
0-1
Well,
Miami.
that's not such a crazy question anymore. Oh, one Miami? I mean, you can go back 25 yards, or 25 years with BCS stuff and like, all right,
Yeah.
who are the best, 5, 10 teams and has won a title in this last 25 years? And I'll be damned if Indiana doesn't make that top five based on who they are and what they do and how efficient they are on both
Well,
sides of the ball.
right. Where are they vulnerable? Like if you're game planning, if you're the Miami coaching staff, this is what they're doing right
I
now,
don't,
probably. They're watching Indiana film and
yes.
breaking it down and saying, where can we get these guys? I don't know where that is. Like, and I'm not a coach, but I've watched
Oh, I don't know.
coached Indiana for 2 games and
Right.
a little bit through the regular season. You've watched them probably more than I have, but I don't know where they're weak. You can't run
I've
on
seen
them.
them
You can't
live. I
throw the
saw
ball
them.
on them.
No, I don't either. No,
You can't hurry Mendoza. He doesn't get in a
no.
hurry.
And they,
You,
no, he doesn't care. He doesn't worry.
yes,
He just doesn't
he
get,
just makes
he's just like,
throws.
okay, sure, whatever. And they have three wide receivers, two in particular, Surratt and Becker. They're just, two-star kids that are just studs, like gonna have NFL careers, especially Surratt. Like that kid's got a career. He's just solidly built. He just catches everything. He's physical. He'll block. Like he's a guy that should not have ever been at James Madison. That should have been at, should be at Ohio State or pick your big school, not James Madison. And he's at IU now, which is still funny to say,
Right.
right? We're going to have to kind of get used to this because Signetti's going to be there for a bit, I feel.
And they
Like
ain't
he
slowing
doesn't
down.
seem like a guy's going to be jumping around.
And
No, no.
I
They're pumping in resources. Their
yep.
alumni is as biggest in the country, the largest living alumni. Their enrollment is up like 20% this past year too. So they're kind of like Colorado when Dion came in there with the new students come in and more grad students. Indiana's pumping more and more students through, and like that's just going to increase the revenue of the school in general. And it's a fun story. It just shows you like if you want to be great, you have to find the right person and then give all those resources that an Alabama or Ohio State or Michigan or Tennessee gets. And then if you do those things right, it's not out of the question. Now,
No, that
you can
and
do that.
That's
Kalen DeBoer's got
NIL
that.
era
Kalen DeBoer's
building.
got that right at Alabama, right?
Yeah,
Exactly,
but
right,
that's NIL.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
okay, question,
So it's just different.
question.
Yeah.
Is this happening without NIL for Indiana?
No, no, I don't think so. Not at this level. Uh, they because they're spending like top 15 money like amongst everyone else, and you have to do that. Like if Illinois, for example, wants to be great, now they have a good coach. I think Bielema's a good coach, but they aren't spending as much as Indiana for starters, and that will pay off, right? Indiana's got kids that are part of it. It's like they have a really old roster too, right? So it's gonna be
Average
interesting to
age
see
of
what they look
23
like
years
next year
old.
when they lose a lot of these kids, right? Exactly, right. So that's big when you're going against 19, 20-year olds, 18-year olds. And that's, spoiler alert, kind of why I'm leaning towards Indiana in the title game. Because, you know, Miami's a good team, obviously, right? But they have younger talent, right? And that matters, right? And there's some of these kids, like Carson Beck's the same age as CJ Stroud. Stroud's been in the NFL for 3 years.
I seen a
So
stat. I seen a stat.
he's the same
Carson
age as
Beck
Bryce
started
Young.
playing when Carson Beck started playing college football. Malachi Tony was in like the seventh grade, and now he's throwing
Yes, that's
footballs
true.
to
That
him.
is a fact.
And
Yes,
so,
yes.
and one thing
That's
about
right. It's
one
like
thing
this
about
is little brother.
one thing about Indiana that I'll say, and I noticed, and it just kind of come to me, they're never not on the same page. They're always
No, absolutely
on
not.
the same page. When's the last time you watched Indiana? And I watched two whole games plus a little bit through the regular season, like I said. And I don't think I ever seen him run a play where, oh, him and the Mendoza and the receiver were not on the same page. I'm sure it's happened through the year because there's
No.
thousands and thousands of plays that got ran. But they have to have the lowest number of plays just like that. Like where Serratus or Charlie Backer, somebody runs a route that he wasn't supposed to run and Mendoza thought he was going somewhere else. They're always in tune every play. They
Yes,
know exactly where
they
everyone's going
are.
to be
Yeah.
every play. Mendoza knows exact before he snaps that football. He knows exactly it. And we talked about it. It reminds me of Burrow and those guys in the 19 LSU team. Is what it reminds me of.
Yes.
Where that
Unstoppable.
offense, you can't do anything because they can the quarterback like Burrow them Mendoza now looks to defense. Okay, I got this set. I got this guy here. He's going to bail. Da 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 da. I'm going here, and it's already it the play is just it's already a foregone conclusion. That's it. You've
Yes.
already lost on
Right.
defense. All the play is insignificant at that point.
Yeah.
You've
You're gonna give
already
up yards
lost.
after.
Yes, you've already lost.
Just
It's just running
tackle.
the
Just make
play.
sure you
Yeah,
tackle.
right. The only chance you have, and we'll preview it. You got to beat them up front, and I don't know how you do that because they're fantastic on both lines of scrimmage. That's the only way you could slow them down is beat them up front,
Absolutely.
and I don't know that anybody can do that because if Ohio State couldn't do it, I mean, I don't know who
No.
else can. So, Ohio State kind of done it. They held them to
Miami
13.
might.
So,
They did exactly. They were able to hold them defensively to 13. Now Ohio State struggled all year to kind of run the ball, which is something that Miami is really good at. If you're a Miami fan, you better hope that Cristobal doesn't get bored with success if they're getting 2, 3, 4 yards running the ball.
right,
You need to control that clock, and that means being aggressive, running the ball. 13 personnel, 12 personnel, whatever it is. Get Fletcher 25, 30 carries. It's the last game of the year. What are you worried about? Get Tony as many touches as you can on pop passes and things like that, screens.
yep,
Don't try to, you know, go after Pond. Don't try to get cute and make Beck make bad decisions. Put him in a position to make a bad position or a bad decision. Run the ball. Stay with it. You need to stay with it, unless they're just hammering you and you're getting zilch, which I don't think they will. I
I don't
think
think
that's
so either.
Miami's only opportunity. Frankly, I don't think it's. We'll get into it more, but like that's the only place I can think is Miami might. I'm not saying the edge, but they might be able to compete
Right,
with Indiana.
running the ball.
That
Yeah, I'm
Indiana
with
D
you.
line. I'm not sure that's. I believe that 100%. I don't know if sure I even believe that 100%. But that's if there's one that comes off the top of my head, that'd be one there. So, but like you said, we'll do a whole preview show before the game, which is on the Monday, the 19th, week from today. So we'll do a preview show in a couple, 3 days or whatever, and
Yeah.
preview that game. But you can kind of see where we're leaning already. But we'll go into more details and who and when
Well,
and why and that kind of
and
thing, and talk about the gambling stuff. But
for sure. And I got a couple quick hits here for you.
Mhm.
For one, who had the harder side of the bracket, Indiana or Miami? Now, okay, I've got you a list here. Indiana side of the bracket:
Okay.
Alabama, OU, JMU, Oregon, and Texas Tech. They played Alabama and Oregon out of that group.
Okay.
Miami's
Yeah.
road, they had A&M, Ohio State, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Tulane on their side of the bracket. They had to beat A&M, had to beat Ohio State, had to beat Ole Miss. Now, when it comes
Yes.
to quality of opponents to get to the national championship, I don't think there's a question who played a tougher road.
No. No. It's that Miami had way more meat to get through, I think. Um, yeah, playing A&M on the road when it's 90-mile-an-hour winds, and then beating Ohio State. Then you got to get past, you know, either Georgia or Ole Miss. Either one would have been a difficult game. You know, Indiana gets look. Alabama's still a good team, but this is not Alabama from
No,
3 years ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. And obviously James Madison is a team that probably should be in there, and you know Texas Tech is you know a little ways away from where they can actually compete to get in the semis for a title. Would you agree with that? That's my initial thought that
I
Miami's
do.
going to earn this more, but it may not matter.
They're battle
Indiana's going to
tested.
bludgeon anyone they play.
And
Yeah.
maybe so. How does Indiana
Right.
do on that side of the bracket though? They're not beating everybody 56 to
Yeah.
22 on that side of the bracket. They're not going to Kyle Field and winning that
No, no,
game
no,
like
no.
that. They're not
Right.
going through Ohio State. We've already seen that game. And then you got to deal with Trinidad
Right.
Chambliss to get to the national championship game. It
Right.
ain't like that. I guess what I'm saying is, as far as battle tested against quality opponents through the playoff, it's Miami, which leads me to my second
Yeah.
quick hit
Absolutely.
here. Indiana, right this very minute, is an 8.5 point favorite. That is bananas. You can get
Okay.
Miami at plus 260. That's two and a half times your money when you bet on Miami. For a team that beat
Oh
A&M,
man.
Ohio State by more than Indiana did, and Trinidad Chambliss to get to the national title game. That team went through all three of those teams and is an 8.5 point dog going in the championship game. I know Indiana's good.
Right.
We've already foreshadowed. We're probably going to pick Indiana. I'm on board all there, but 8.5 is stupid. I don't know where they get that.
Yeah. That's yeah, I don't know. I think people's eyes are so wide open now after they just bludgeoned Alabama and Oregon that they're anticipating seeing something like that again, which hell, who knows? Maybe they will. Which if that is the case and they bludgeon Miami, we may be talking one of the top two or three teams ever. This is the
Yes,
most balanced team
for
ever in
sure.
college football history. And it's one of those things like I told you 5 years ago that Indiana was going to be the top team in college football and bludgeon Indiana or Oregon, Ohio State, and pick all these teams, and you'd be like, "Shut up! That's not real. We're not. That let's get back to earth here. That's not a real thing." And then you're like, "No, no, no, just watch."
No,
They hired the best coach in college football. He's going to go down. He's going to go end up being a Hall of Famer if this keeps up like this at all. And they already
yeah,
got the Josh Hoover kid for next year for a quarterback. They got Mendoza's brother has showed like some promise too, and
Indiana's going to
they
be
got
fine.
the Nick Marsh kid from Michigan State. They're going to be
Yeah,
fine. Like
they're going to be just fine.
they have a system, they have a rhythm, they know who they are. They know that it's Signeti said it a million times, like it's this specific attention to detail. Every little detail matters, and you see that when they're running a route, when they're doing a stunt on the line, when the corners, watching the quarterback's eyes and watching the like it's just phenomenal. It's good football to watch too. It's just very disciplined, and that turns into you don't need. 25 5 stars. You need some
A bunch of
experience,
25-year-olds.
and you have some it, that helps, right? And then if
Grown
that's
ass
your who
men.
you are, and that's within the limits, just these are adults versus children. Some of these things like that. So yeah, I I think they're going to be fine. Yeah, absolutely. Indiana, that is like I don't know. I just don't see them dropping off. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to run on a 5 year run of titles, but like they're going to be in the hunt until Signetti says, I'm calling it quits, which he's only 60. Was he 64, something like that?
Yeah.
So
No
he's
one
got some years in him
now the
still,
NIL
too.
is a thing. I don't think anyone has that Saban Bama run in the mid 2000s
That's not happening.
anymore. I think that's over. Where
No.
you go, you win 6 championships in like 10 years or whatever it is he won. So, which brings me to the third, my final one here. Indiana. Let's go ahead and say they win next Monday. Safe to
Hmm.
say, and at one time this would have perturbed me, but it doesn't anymore. I'm not an SEC conference guy anymore. I used to be a little bit,
Sure.
pull for the SEC, and then I realized that's the dumbest shit. I want them all to lose by 50. None of them
Right.
winning all those
Right.
championships means anything to Tennessee. Does nothing for the school.
Unless it favors you, unless it helps
Yes,
benefit you somehow, some way,
and
who
it
gives a
doesn't.
shit? Right. I don't care
There's
if
not one.
Purdue wins or it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. Who
Mm-mm.
cares? Right. Indiana winning this thing next Monday does nothing for the University of Michigan. Not a single thing
No.
for Michigan.
No. Well,
So,
it's not, I don't, it's completely true because they do pool all their money together from the playoffs
right.
and stuff. So
Okay.
they will get a couple dollars from it. However, it's not going to impact Michigan directly where they're going to increase the recruits that come in
No.
because look, we're in a conference with
Yeah.
Indiana
Yeah.
kind of
We get
thing.
to we
That's
can
which is
play
what it was
Indiana
used to
next
be
year.
kind of talk like.
Yeah. Not a
Right,
thing.
exactly right.
So,
So
with that said, Indiana wins Monday. That'll be 4 in a row for the Big Ten national champions. Right? Is that four? Is that right? That's Michigan.
uh, three: Michigan,
Three in a
Ohio
row.
State, Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. 3 in a row. So 3 in a row for the
yeah,
Big Ten.
because Georgia won it the year before. Yeah, yeah,
Right. That's right. So they went back to back and then Michigan. Okay. So
right.
all right. So that's 3 in a row. So it'd be safe to say they've
To
pretty
your point,
much
still right.
taken the lead as far as conferences, overall conferences, as far as that goes.
I
I didn't.
look at there's not an SEC team like in the championship game again,
Nope.
right? This is so go back to 23, the Michigan and Washington. Last year was Ohio State and Notre Dame. This year, Indiana and shitty ACC Miami.
Yep.
Um, so
What did we say about that though? We
and
said
the
early
best
in the
team that was
year.
in there.
We said ACC has if they have a hope of getting a team to the title game, it's Miami. It ain't Virginia. It ain't any of the people playing for the
Yes,
ACC
yes.
championship. It's Miami.
No,
That's
no, no.
what it is. But I didn't
100%.
realize.
It was it. It was good that Duke won, frankly, because
Right.
Virginia in there instead of Miami
Yeah.
was
This is
we'll never know, obviously, but Miami,
probably
Virginia's not
Ohio
going to run
State
like this.
again.
No.
Probably Ohio State again. You got to
Yeah,
figure Ole
yeah,
Miss is going to get beat by, still going to beat Georgia. That's all still going to happen. I would think Ohio State would beat Virginia.
sure.
So
I just
then
think that.
Ohio State probably beats Ole Miss,
Yes,
the same as Miami beat Ole Miss. So it stands to reason. So it's probably a
probably.
rematch of the Big Ten championship game. I mean, I think it's very plausible.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100%. That's laid that well. But
It's
yeah,
just
so
funny.
if that's your question, the answer is absolutely.
The question is
Things have
why.
flipped, and it's yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that NIL and uh, the transfer portal, those two things, maybe some other things, but NIL alone is biggest reason, I think, because you have schools like Michigan, Ohio State who have a bit of unlimited funds if they want to, right? And there's some other schools like obviously LSU has money, but they're not going to outbid Michigan for Bryce Underwood, for example. That matters. And then you have throw in there with the transfer portal where Georgia's not going to have five stars along the defensive line or linebacker. You ain't playing. You're a 5 star. What are you waiting around for? Go to Indiana.
That's right.
Go somewhere else, right? Go play Texas Tech, right? So I think those two teams or those two things have leveled the playing field so much so that it's. I think the SEC fans who are more fans of this conference than they are individual teams, they can't quite wrap their heads around it because we didn't see that happen for what, 20 years basically,
They
last
won 7 in
last
a
quarter
row from
century,
'06 to 12.
other than a couple Ohio State.
So
Right, exactly. And then a couple
yeah,
Ohio State ones in there, Miami one in there early in the 14 and then 2003 I guess it was. Uh, it's that's it's something, right? I mean, do you have an opinion that's anything different than that?
well, I'm
I don't
like
know
you when
what
it
else it
comes
would
to
be.
money, and I think it's money. And once money really got involved, then it became commitment to winning. When you come to coaches and coaches staff, the Big Ten has did a great job as far as getting
Yeah,
serious. It reminds me of what happened to SEC basketball back in the day. Whenever SEC basketball was okay, was fine. Florida won a couple, back in the early 2000s and just was kind of floundering around. And then all of a sudden, they got committed to winning basketball and they hired good coaches. And then next thing you know, Auburn's in the Final Four. Tennessee's been Elite Eights, 3 times now,
right.
which they've been winning school history until Rick
Florida's won it,
Barnes. Florida's won it again. So it's
right?
just like being, Kentucky's Kentucky. They're not Kentucky this year, but they just got
Right.
committed to
No, right.
winning. Let's commit to winning. And if you get good coaching, you commit the money, you get good coaches, you buy good coaches with a lot of money, and then you win. It sounds really simple, but that's the recipe. And I think the Big Ten, whenever
It
NIL
is, right?
become
And that
okay,
means
NFL, yep,
you hire good assistants too.
yes, you get your staff. Everyone's elite, not just the head coach, the whole staff. The Nick Saban staff was
Right. No,
elite
you
when they won all those
100%.
championships. Kirby Smart, Signetti's on there,
Signetti
and
and
Lanning.
Lanning and Smart.
Jesus, and all
Mel
of them.
Tucker, like they had all kinds of head coaching.
It was crazy. It's just crazy. Lane Kiffin's on there. It's they just
Kiffin, yep.
Steve Sarkeesian.
Sark.
It, an embarrassment of riches on
Is that the
coaching. And
best tree
so
ever? I don't know.
I don't. If you
Yeah.
name one better, I'm all ears. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah, there ain't one. So I
And
think I
this
think
maybe the
money is
Joe
number
Walsh
one,
one for
and
the NFL, but not college.
right,
Yeah,
NIL opened the door to money, and money opened the door to being elite in
yeah.
football every year for the Big Ten, every single year. And they always had teams that always kind of were. Michigan, of course,
Yes,
and Ohio
right.
State is always up there. But now the down the tree is even better than it used to be. So
Right. Right. Yeah, just look at like head to head in playoff time. Don't bowl games or whatever, those can be all hit or
yeah,
miss because there's opt-outs and things like that. But like the playoffs themselves the last few years, Michigan beating Alabama, Indiana hammering Alabama,
yes,
like those kinds of things they add up, like if they're lucky that Georgia and Ole Miss fought each other because one of those teams is going to make it for the SEC to be in that final, that semis, but otherwise, they're getting shut out of title games. Now that's not going to stay forever, right? And this
no,
is things will,
it ebbs and flows.
revert back to the mean, but it does clearly say there's going to be more balance, more parity, and that's good for the sport. There's a lot of things to rein in with NIL, right, and fix things, and the portal, maybe some things, but like it's certainly more balanced now amongst the top, two conferences. Obviously, ACC and the Big 12 are good conferences, but they are probably a notch below, right? We saw, like, so if you're an ACC fan, you're saying, well, Miami's in the title game, so there's that. Beat the Big Ten title
Right?
winner last year, so. But like the depth is probably better between the SEC and Big Ten, but
Oh, for sure, 100%.
nevertheless, it doesn't really matter because it's who your team is and like uh, and I don't subscribe to like, well, you got to play so many SEC teams on the road, not at home, and it's just a battle, and like, well, everyone else is playing 12, 15 games as well, so like you're going to be beat up, and if you can stay healthy enough and
That's
if you
true.
can be um, well coached and talented enough, you can make up for some of these losses. Like Indiana's lost their right guard, I think it was, to just celebrating, blew his knee out celebrating after the Big Ten title game.
What
So
was he a
they're able
guard or
to
was he a
make up
defensive
for that
lineman?
and bludgeon two teams in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Maybe it
I want to
was.
say he
I
was a
forget. It's one of
defensive
the starting
lineman.
linemen. I forget what it was, but
Yeah.
maybe it was. Okay, um, that like that's the thing to overcome. But if you're well coached and you have enough talent in the back, and these kids have gotten run to play, you don't miss a beat. You don't miss a beat at all. If I
Well,
told you, yeah, Indiana's missing their best defensive player, I'm not saying not true, but like you'd be like, oh man, they're gonna struggle. No, their
no,
average margin of victory is
not
about
even a little.
30 points.
And
You
you
wouldn't even
can
know they're missing.
and we could talk about the draw and all that's true. But
Sure.
it you know they didn't miss in the first two games. Now what's
Mm-mm.
coming down the tracks here is a completely different animal than what they faced the first two times. It's a completely different animal.
Absolutely.
And I'm trying to, I guess I'm just trying to drum up
Right.
something on the Miami side here, but there's that
Well,
Miami
no,
team
but
does a
they're
lot of
more balanced,
things.
I would say.
They
Miami.
do a lot of things better than either Oregon or Alabama can do. They do a lot of things better. Now, that
Absolutely.
does that equate to a win? We'll see. But they're
No.
on the line of scrimmage. It's a completely different animal with Miami than it was Oregon and especially Alabama. Not to say Oregon isn't good on the line of scrimmage.
Absolutely.
They're very good. They ain't Miami good.
Sure.
Miami does
No, they're
things on a
not.
whole other
Absolutely.
level than
No,
Oregon does on the line of scrimmage on both sides. So we'll see what that equates to. But they could pose
absolutely.
problems that the other two teams they face they don't pose. And so will Indiana. But the argument I guess I'm making here is, and I'm not going to talk myself into picking Miami, but hear me out. They they've seen elite the whole time through this playoff. The
Hmm.
whole playoff they've seen elite quarterback play from Chambliss,
Yes.
defenses in Ohio State, a kid that can run around and read, and a home field advantage at Kyle Field. They've seen elite the whole thing. So
Right.
when they get home in Miami next Monday, that's going to be they're equipped to go in there and give Indiana the best game they've had through the whole playoffs by far. That's just saying.
Well, absolutely. Right. Because they're more balanced on both sides of the ball. Like they can run the ball and they have elite defensive players along the line of scrimmage and then the secondary. And that's going to have to be their best game. Messidor and Bain are going to have their best games of their career, play out their minds to have a shot. And we're starting to do a preview more than we said we're going to, but it's just hard not
Yeah,
to fall into it
it
because we
is.
got
Yeah,
one more game and we're already talking about it, right? All right, so we've spent an
we've got
hour
an hour.
doing preview, review, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we're good for an hour, aren't we?
We've done our job.
Yes, right. I don't have anything else. Anything else to wrap up that you had thoughts on? I think I put all my notes out there.
No, no. I said I hit those my quick hits, and I said I'm ready to get the preview going. I'm ready to get the betting going. I've already planned something pretty cool for the betting because we've been halving these all on the way. You've been doing half, I've been doing half. Well, there's one game left and
Sure.
there's three picks. So I'm not a mathematizer, but that
Yes.
don't divide into two. So I've
We could have
I've
us. We could do one me, one you, and one for Shelby.
yeah. I think I've got it figured out how we're gonna do it. So, but it'll be fun, and I think
Okay.
I don't know. I think you'll like how I done the money here. So that's all I'll say to the preview show.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to know. I like to. We don't really talk about specific stuff like that. I like to have it just organically come to me and hear about it
Orgasmically,
as
organically.
well. So we those both
Say
organically to orgasmically. It's sort of they fall into each other. They're
perfect.
they're cohesive. That's right. All right. Well, we're talking about orgasmic. So this has been another orgasmic show, I will say. One of the second to last one. It's episode 20.1.
Wow.
If the 2025-2026 college football season. We just started this in August, 2025, August, whatever it was, 20th. And here we are. This, as we said then, if you go back and watch our first episode, the football season will be over like that.
Here we are.
Nothing goes faster in life than football season. Here we are, right? We're down. The college football's got one game left. The NFL playoffs have, they're getting to the.
They've been good too.
Conference title games here next weekend. Yeah, they've been absolutely really good. Absolutely.
Holy smokes,
Bears.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I haven't even seen what's going on now. I got to step away and go watch the Steelers and Houston game. So that's it. This is Hell If We Know podcast. That's Chris. I'm Brian, and we'll be back with you in a couple days to preview the national championship game with Miami, the away team, in Hard Rock against Indiana. Yes, I said that right. At home.
Yeah, nailed it.
Home team Indiana. Hard Rock. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.